You are now watching the Lone Blown. Blown!
Yo, what's poppin' YouTube? Welcome back to the Lone Blown. That's me, Zach Lesage, and today we're going to be going over my top 5 budget decks in the month of January. So if you're a player who's balling on a budget, or if you just don't know if you want to invest fully into Pokemon, you can choose any one of these decks, and they're a little bit cheaper than some of the more top-tier competitive decks. Now, don't get me wrong, these decks are actually really good. I would play them for any particular tournament if I decided to. They might not necessarily be the absolute best, but they are definitely tournament contenders for ND events. If you want to make it a little bit cheaper, head over to PTCGO plug in code ZLESAGE5 to save 5% on your next order of codes. You can find that discount link in the description below, along with all of the decks available in this video. I mean, if you like the content, I appreciate all of y'all subscribing and giving this video a thumbs up, like as well. Let's jump into our number 5 deck right now. So in our number 5 spot, we have Excadrill. Excadrill is one of those decks that seems to pop in and out of the metagame kind of over and over again, and it just really depends on how many fighting type weak Pokemon are out there. This one paired with Altaria allows for you to stop some V Max, and GX Pokemon as well. So basically you want to hit the Pokermon matchup, you want to hit Eternatus, and you want to find decks that can't really beat Altaria. Pokermon doesn't necessarily do a great job against that. Some decks like Lucario Melmetal do not do a good job against that. So it's definitely one of those things that you could just kind of vibe out and choose your win condition. Now, this deck won one of the Chill TCG events recently. Pretty huge event. Hasn't really done too much since. Decks like this aren't overly popular, but they are pretty viable. So depending on how the metagame goes, this one's pretty metagame dependent. As long as your opponent does not have answers to Altaria or to Excadrill, that's really where it is. I'm not sure if I like this particular list too much, but it is heavily inspired, if not the exact list that did well at the Chill TCG event. So give this deck a whirl if you're an Excadrill, but remember, it's number 5. You don't necessarily have to go with this deck. And in our number 4 spot, we're going to go with decidueye Obstagoons. Decidueye Obstagoon, again, similar to Altaria, is one of these counter decks where you're trying to stop your opponent's V Max, GX, and their unevolved Pokemon from attacking. This deck really works as kind of like a wall deck. Your opponent can't really do too much, so you're hoping to play against matchups that do not play text to beat this. So that means you typically have a good Pokermon matchup, you have a good ADP matchup if your opponent does not play something like Aegislash. You struggle a bit against the Centiskorch decks, but I mean, this deck does have some pretty good matchups as long as your opponent does not counter it. Rosa is a little bit more on the expensive side, so it's hard to really pin this as a budget deck, but it does come in the Cosmic Eclipse build and battle decks from the pre-releases. So I mean, it's not entirely the worst thing that you could ever acquire. And after you acquire that, everything else in the deck is pretty soft. So I mean, if you're new to the game, this is a really good way to just get some free wins. You can just evolve into some Pokemon and kind of stop your opponent from attacking. And if you play against a matchup that's not great, then you're just going to lose. It's not the most exciting deck to play, but sometimes it's decks like this that get you all the way. Another one of these fighting type decks makes the list, and this one's going to be dawnfan with Spiritomb. So dawnfan's really good at countering fighting type weak Pokemon. And you got Spiritomb, which is a great single prize card attacker. So I mean, this deck seems like it can... I really like this deck. It's very intriguing to me. You have a good Pokermon matchup. You have a good Eternatus matchup. You should be able to be fine against... you should be good against Decigoons. You should be good against Baby Blacephalon. The only thing that's really going to be a factor here is consistency. But overall, I think this deck's really cool, especially Cape of Toughness, extra damage with Spiritomb, Earthquake having synergy with Spiritomb, Jinx. Seems like a really fun deck. Honestly, the most expensive card in this deck is going to be the Crobat V, but once you get past that hurdle, the rest of this deck is quite cheap to put together. I think that like this is a generally like really solid deck to play. I'm getting into Pokemon, there's a lot of mechanics, lots of kind of synergy kind of strategies, and I think just attacking certain Pokemon seems really cool. Out of all the decks in this list, including first and second. I think this one's definitely the most fun. We'll see how this deck kind of grows with the rest of this format. Let's see how it goes. Here we are getting to one of the juicier decks in our standard format, Mad Party. Now, Mad Party, if you've played Pokemon for a while, we've seen Night March, Lost March, got Mad Party now. A lot of these decks have done very well throughout the history of the game and have been successful. Mad Party doesn't seem like it's gonna, it doesn't seem like it's any different than those. It has seen some success, kind of. A lot of top players like Daniel Tavilla, Azul Garcia Grego, they both play these decks. This list, I believe, is based off of Danny's, one of his most current lists. Basically, the goal is to get as many Mad Party Pokemon in your discard pile and to attack with Bunnelby and Poltegeist with your Twin Energy and Triple Acceleration Energy. It's a single prize card deck. You're doing a lot of damage here, and for single energy attachments. So it's quite speedy. It does struggle a little bit with ADP, but it does have a very good Pika matchup and a few other good matchups along the way. I know I've played it a few times. Maybe I'm not a Mad Party player myself. I might not truly understand the sequencing of this deck, but this deck is super fun to play. There's something that's so rewarding about just discarding all these different Mad Party Pokemon, drawing a bunch of cards with Dedenne-GX, drawing even more cards with Crobat V, and even discarding those Crobat V and Dedenne-GX from your bench with Giovanni's Exile, a card that is very rarely used in any other deck. A lot of really cool cards and kind of fun gameplay with a deck like this. So if you're new to the game, I think that this is absolutely one of the best decks for you to get into. Again, Crobat V being one of the more difficult cards to acquire in this deck, but there is a Crobat V promo box coming out in the next couple months at the filming of this video. So it's one of those things where it's not too bad to acquire Crobat V at some point, and otherwise it's just one of them, and you will need them, and it's good for like 2 years. So I totally recommend picking it up. I think this deck's super cool. Give it a try. And again, the list is in the description below. And last but not least, we finally got to our top deck in our budget deck edition for December, and that is Baby Blacephalon. I mean, can we get a Blounce? This deck is absolutely fire, no pun intended. I think Welder into Blacephalon into doing Fireball Circus is such a huge kind of move. And you might be like, yo, Zach, it's a 3 energy on a single prize card Pokemon that is 120 HP. But the thing is, Blacephalon's going to be good for the foreseeable future. We already have a great shell of the deck, and Fireball Circus is scalable no matter how much HP comes at us. So whether they just print some kind of new Tag Team VMAX monstrosity that has 500 HP, you could always discard 10 energies from your hand. So we could always adjust this deck list, and there's always new cards coming out that we could add into the deck. You can see that Cramorant and Reshiram and Charizard GX make their way in and out of the deck, always depending on the formats. It's one of those things where I think that this deck is just a really hot deck in general, doing a lot of damage, knocking out Pokemon with a lot of HP, and just really going for it. Welder decks are very simple at their core, where you're just attaching energies and drawing cards, and then you're just really trying to go with Fireball Circus, with Fire Crystals, Fire Energy, Giant Hearth. But this is a really winning concept, and it's not the most expensive deck in the world. Sure, there's going to be a few problem cards in this deck, like Crobat V. It's a little bit, Reshiram Charizard GX can go for a few packs, and even Oricorio-GX can be a little bit expensive, but these are all common decks between all the decks in this video. So if you pick up a few of these cards, that Crobat V could be used in another one of those decks. This one's absolutely one of the top competitive decks in the game as well, and it just so happens to be fairly cheap to put together. So if you're balling on a budget and you want to have one of the best decks in the game, this is basically the best one that you can pick. Blacephalon's one of my top 3 decks to play in any events, period. So I just think you should give it a whirl, especially if you're looking to get some wins. You can't really go wrong with this one. And there you have it, everyone. That's our top 5 budget decks for the month of January. I mean, I think it's one of those things where If you're balling on a budget, this is a great place to check out for some of the top decks. A lot of these are my personal lists, and if they're not my personal list, they are the top decks that I have found in some of these online tournaments from some of the best players in the game. So if you like this series, feel free to subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and don't forget to check out the discount code for PTCGO store, SSH5, to save 5% on your next order. All the lists are in the description. I mean, there's other discount links in there. What more could you ask for? If you want to see more budget decks, check out our last video, or you can always check out our video that's going to be coming out next month. So hopefully you're hyped up for that, but there's lots of great content coming out on the channel this week, so stay tuned for all that. Thanks so much for watching, and have yourself a wonderful day. Peace out.
Really hope that you enjoyed watching that video. I totally enjoyed making it. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like the video, share the video with everyone that you know, and subscribe to the channel as well. Totally appreciate all the support. We got a lot of cool things happening on the channel, so stay tuned for more. Be sure to check out the social links in the description. Thanks, and have yourself a great one.